Hola!
Hello everyone, welcome to the Huawei Digital Talent Summit, which is in partnership with the UNESCO Institute for Lifelong Learning. I'm very excited to be here with you in Barcelona to host this event. My name is Anthony Ugioke, and I'm from Nigeria. You know, in 2018, I participated in the Seed for the Future program. Also, in 2020, my teammates and I got awarded with the grand prize at the Huawei ICT Competition Global Finals. I won't be doing this alone today. With me, I have
Hi, welcome, and I'm Rui Fang, and I'm pleased to be one of your hosts for today's event. I had the privilege of being the finalist of Huawei's Tech for City competition that was held in Singapore last year, and fast forward, here I am today. So I hope that every one of you is excited for the program as I am.
Today's Digital Talent Summit aims to share expertise and also to share expertise as we look towards building a sustainable and inclusive world. We'll get the chance to hear from a range of experts, including representatives from Huawei, the UNESCO Institute for Lifelong Learning, the African Telecommunications Union, the Commission for Science and Technology of the Mexican Senate, and also the ASEAN Foundation.
In addition, we'll also have the pleasure of witnessing the signing agreement between Huawei and the UNESCO Institute of Lifelong Learning and the winners of last year's Tech for Good competition. And not forgetting that we'll be having our Seeds talk at the end, so stay tuned for that. Without further ado, let me invite Ms. Vicky Zhang, the Vice President of Huawei's Corporate Communications, up on stage for the opening speech. Ms. Vicky, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yep. Sorry, there's... Yeah, okay. That's great. Sorry, some technical things. Yeah. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, and dear students and media friends, good morning. I'm Vicky Zhang from Huawei, and I'm honored to be here, standing here to celebrate Huawei's Seeds for the Future program since its 15 years. And also, on behalf of Huawei, allow me to extend my warm welcome to all of you. Seeds for the Future is a global talent program from Huawei, initially designed to help the foster tech-savvy students, youth, who are resilient against real-world headwinds. And we now know in the real world, success is not guaranteed. We need to invest our body, our soul. I remember from Huawei's leadership interview, video interview with Madam Irina Bokova, former director of UNESCO, and she mentioned that education about giving hope. That's something I completely agree with. I think getting the right education is often the key to success. So as a major player in the technology sectors, Huawei feels we have the responsibility to provide technology skills to all parts of the world. And we try our best to benefit, to include as many as people as possible. And in this way, the benefit of digitalization will be better shared. And by the end of 2022, Huawei's global ICT talent program already benefit as many as 2.2 million people over 130 countries, 50 countries. And this is this is an amazing milestone for us. And that's encouraged us to do more and to larger the scope. And it's also a proof of us fulfilling our promise of investing $150 million in digital talent development before 2026. And today, I'm pleased to announce that we have an expanded Seeds Talent Framework. It's a new set of framework that will guide our worldwide talent development program. And Seeds will now stand for Surpass, Exploration, Employability, and Daring to Challenge, and Sustainability. So the initial S stands for surpass. With surpass, we aim to foster leadership. We offer a number of particular programs to help participants to cultivate their ability to lead. So I will give you two examples. This photo was from our flagship program named European Leadership Academy. And I was glad to attend one of the editions in Madrid last year. And the theme was the Women Academy for Rural Investment. 15 female participants from rural area of 15 European countries joined the training session. It's 5 days training session. And I was amazed by their energy, and also our training will help this energy shine brighter. Another example is in Southeast Asia. We trained in recent years about 180,000 people from Indonesia, Malaysia, and Thailand, and at Huawei ASEAN Academy. And I believe Dr. Pidi from ASEAN Foundation will give you more details about these initiatives. And now let's switch to the first E, which stands for explorations. Selecting the right career path, adapting to change, and continuing to grow are the critical to students who live in the safety of the Iron Tower. And our well-established program, like the initial version of Seeds for the Future and the ICT Academy, every year we help thousands of students worldwide. Featuring hands-on training with industry experts, the programs allow students to explore new possible life paths and strengthen their digital skills. While training, many form stronger friendships that last long into their careers. And in our initial version of Seeds for the Future programs, we partnered with over 500 universities and also helped more than 15,000 students in over 130 countries. And you can see in the previous video, the very first regional Seeds for the Future camp was happened in Thailand last year. And it's a 2-week trip. 120 students from 16 countries, gathered together even during a pandemic period. It's not easy, but they achieved a lot. And also another flagship program is ICT Academy. And we already work together with 2,200 universities all over the world. And these academies provide courses, technology courses covering the AI, technology, telecommunications, and cloud, etc. And now the academies train more than 200,000 students each year. And the second E stands for employability. We provide online education to ICT professionals so that they can keep their skills up to date and remain competitive in the job market, even years after they finish their studies in the universities. And the programs enable participants from various technical fields to obtain certifications and experience new technologies. One particular aspect is to train the trainers, which focus on the knowledge of ICT teachers up to date. And we have the Huawei Cloud Developer Institute, which offers tons of online ICT training courses to public. Entrepreneurs and developers from across the globe, they can make these courses to upskill themselves. And also, we awarded Huawei Career certifications. The certifications shows the trainees have obtained certain skills. This boosts their employabilities in the ICT industry. The D stands for Daring to Challenge. And we organized and sponsored a worldwide tech competitions throughout the world. Several of the contests involved solving the real-world problems in the industries. Competition encouraged the students from the university and also from the high school to obtain cutting-edge industry knowledge in a very fun way. So this is the ICPC, the International Collegiate Programming Contest. And Huawei, we are honored to be the diamond sponsor for the fifth year this year. And also, we're also glad that our own brand, Tech Arena competition, are booming in Europe, with an annual attendance of more than 1,000 student contests in 2022. And the last letter, S, stands for sustainability. As I said earlier, technology plays a very important role in our lives. Yet, still too many people don't use technology, either because they don't have the skills or don't have access to devices. So we try to bridge this digital divide by offering some basic tech trainings to people of all ages and genders. We have many key projects that promote sustainability, among which I would like to introduce two projects. One is the digital bus and Women in Tech initiatives. So this photo, you can see it's a small classroom. It was in a bus in Thailand. I was there last October, and this bus will travel in the Thailand province. And last year, the project was covering 10 provinces in Thailand to train the very young children and also some doctors in the rural area for some basic ICT technologies to let the children to get access to the ICT at the early stage. And in France, we also have the similar bus, but there's a little bit difference. The bus will give the basic training to the local elderly, to teach them the ICT, how to use the ICT devices, how to use some applications to make them life easier. And this is a very lovely initiative, our Women in Tech initiatives. And this photo was from Ghana. In Ghana, we worked together with the Rebecca Foundation and the local government to provide the ICT trainings to 100,000 women students and also traders. That's a target. And this program already lasted 2 years. During the past 2 years, almost over 70,000 women in Ghana already benefit from this program. And we also, another thing not showing in the photo in the screen, but I also want to highlight, that's the Tech for Good competition. We started this competition from 2021, encouraging students to creative solution to address social or environment problems in meeting with UN SDG goals. And as the moderator mentioned, we will shortly invite the winner teams of last year's Tech for Good competition to share their creative solutions. And as you can see, Huawei is committed to dedicating our resources to foster talent. So we sincerely hope you young people to never stop exploring, never stop learning, never stop challenging, and never stop growing. And on our path, we are not alone. We have been forming stronger bonds with UNESCO to improve our global ICT talent education. And more specifically, this year, we are going to join the Global Alliance for Literary, a STAR project run by UNESCO Institute for Lifelong Learning. As you guess from the name, our main focus will be to provide ICT skills to adults. And now, let's welcome to the stage a representative from our STEAM partner, my friend David, Director of the UNESCO Institute for Lifelong Learning. He will elaborate on this amazing alliance and what we can achieve together. Thank you. Welcome. Okay, thank you. Excellent speech. Thank you.
Thank you, Vicky, for your kind words. Dear guests, dear students, it's a pleasure to welcome you here today for this Huawei Digital Summit that will explore but also celebrate how digital talents can design sustainable solutions for the future of Europe, but beyond, I would say, for the future of the globe. Youth are very important change makers for UNESCO and for UNESCO work in general. They bring creativity, innovation, and energy to foster positive changes. Therefore, identifying and cultivating, as you like to say, Vicky, talents is critical to actually face and respond and address to today's challenges. On the occasion of this event, I would like to share with you UNESCO's vision on how technology can change the lives of young people and empower learners to overcome contemporary challenges. Technology is recognized as a key lever to achieve sustainable development goals, and in particular SDG 4 on education, which aims to ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunities for all. Digital innovations have transformed education by increasing access to learning, improve the quality of learning experiences, and enhance inclusiveness of learning for those who need it the most. And I'll get back to this important aspect of inclusion, which is key to the spirit of the SDGs and which is also a very important element of UNESCO's work. During the COVID-19 pandemic, digital technologies acted as an accelerator of innovation in all educational settings and guaranteed continuity of learning for millions of children, youth, adults, and students by offering online learning opportunities worldwide. It has been really a major shift in the way technology is used to give access to education, to knowledge, to information. The pandemic really served as a catalyst for digital transformation in the sector of higher education by forcing universities, colleges, teachers, and university students to shift teaching and learning online. And you all students present in this room, you have been actually, the actors and sometimes the victims of this, brutal shift and change, with all the opportunities, but also all the challenges that it created. And indeed, the pandemic also highlighted some of the risks associated with using technology in education due to unequal access to devices and internet. UNESCO found that half the students globally did not have access to household computers, and 43% had no internet access at home. Hence, far too many children and adult learners were cut off from learning. Learners in rural and remote communities, women, refugees, migrants, and internally displaced persons were actually particularly affected. Addressing those inequalities requires special attention to disadvantaged groups and to design interventions tailored to their needs to ensure that technology serves the learning of all. And I think that Women in Tech initiative is a very important illustration of a focused very program targeting women. We know that the digital gap also is linked to the gender gap. In this spirit, UNESCO and UNICEF launched in September last year in New York during the Transformation Education Summit an initiative called the Gateways to Public Digital Learning. It's a global initiative that will support countries in securing equitable access to digital learning resources. It's really, in the spirit of open education resources and giving free access to quality learning materials to everyone. Digital platforms can be effective if teachers and learners cannot be effective if teachers and learners do not have the digital skills which are required to use them. Today, only 64% of primary and 50% of secondary school teachers in sub-Saharan Africa have received minimum training, which often does not even include ICT skills. In Europe, 4 out of 10 adults and every third working person lack digital skills. So it's really a very important challenge in relation to ensuring that everyone has access to basic digital skills and competencies. And it is really in that context that UNESCO works closely with a number of partners to develop digital skills and competencies through various flagship programs, such as the Global Education Coalition, which was set up during COVID-19. Huawei is a partner of that coalition. The UNESCO Global Network of Learning Cities, which covers more than 300 cities in different parts of the world, cities committed to promote lifelong learning, and also the Global Alliance for Literacy. The Global Alliance for Literacy was set up to actually support countries that face specific and acute literacy challenges. And again, it's important to stress that literacy goes beyond reading and writing to embrace a diversity of skills, including digital competencies. Today, GAL, the Global Alliance for Literacy, is a platform of 30 countries strongly committed to improving literacy of youth and adults. Empowering learners with literacy skills remains a huge challenge. And despite global efforts, today 763 million of adults still lack very basic literacy and numeracy skills. So the challenge remains huge. And therefore, identifying and supporting digital talents is important, since they can actually contribute to closing this digital gap by harnessing the opportunities offered by new and smart technologies. Digital talents also have a role to promote civic participation and social inclusion in today's digital societies, and that's a very important element as well, and it's certainly important for UNESCO and our work. To promote quality learning through effective use of technologies, the UNESCO Institute for Lifelong Learning, UL, launched an initiative to improve the digital skills of 100,000 trainers, literacy educators. And this program has been implemented so far in 4 countries: Bangladesh, Cote d'Ivoire, Egypt, and Nigeria. And following this successful experience, we are looking forward to expanding the initiative to more countries with the support of Huawei. And we are very pleased today to welcome Huawei as an associate member of GAL, the Global Alliance for Literacy. On behalf of UNESCO and UL, I wish to express our gratitude to Huawei for joining us on this journey and for supporting this initiative on digital skills training for literacy educators. Our rapidly changing world calls for concerted efforts and strong partnerships to promote young talents to achieve quality education and lifelong learning for all. Collaborative projects like ours will ensure that no one is left behind on this journey. Thank you, and I wish you a very successful day. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Vicky and Mr. David, for your wonderful speeches. Indeed, today's youths are driving our society towards transformation, and it's inspiring to see organizations such as Huawei and UNESCO Institute for Lifelong Learning bring technology closer to their hearts.
We consider ourselves fortunate to witness the expansion of the Global Alliance for Literacy program and for Huawei's unwavering commitment to support this global initiative. Their combined efforts is making a significant difference in supporting countries with low literacy rates.
I'm now honored to welcome back on stage Ms. Vicky and Mr. David as we celebrate the induction of Huawei into the Global Alliance for Literacy as an associate member. Please a round of applause as they come up on stage.
Please give a round of applause again for this event. So by joining this alliance, Huawei will be committed to promoting digital literacy to countries in the alliance.
Today's signing of the cooperation agreement between Huawei and UNESCO Institute for Lifelong Learning will enable many educators to acquire essential digital skills, bringing us one step closer to the promise of leaving no one behind in the process of bringing lifelong learning to all. Congratulations.
Congratulations. Thank you so much, Ms. Vicky and Mr. David.
You can now go back to your seats.
And we look forward to the implementation of this important project. So, up next, we have Mr. John Omo, the Secretary General of the African Telecommunication Union, and we'll invite him up for his keynote speech.
Hola. 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 That sounds Spanish. That sounds Spanish. Here in Spain, we are always happy. And so I want to see smiling faces. It's good to be young. It's good to be young. I won't probably perform as well as the young people. And that's why we need to invest in them. Let me start by acknowledging the presence of distinguished industry leaders, especially from Huawei, from UNESCO, and from all the partners that are involved, students from around the world. Please clap for yourselves. I'll come back to you. Good morning. I'm certainly so pleased to be here today to witness students from various parts of the world, but more so from Africa. Africa in the house? Africa in the house?
Woo!
All right. I'm very pleased to address you this morning and to engage with you in this event. It is commendable that Huawei and the partners that are involved have ensured your representation at this event and the events that we have for this week. It is indeed for the benefit of various people that are involved, and more so for anybody who is in this ecosystem that we engage with our youth. Huawei, in my view, has demonstrated a strong commitment to Africa, and I don't exaggerate when I say this, because they've been worthy partners to ourselves, but more so in supporting youth talent and development in the continent. If you don't clap for Huawei, then you have no reason to be here. Now, And that's the main reason that we at the African Telecommunications Union are always happy to associate with Huawei and indeed the other partners that are here. We are established as a specialized organ of the African Union in the field of ICTs. And so our mandate is to promote communications development in Africa for purposes of universal access. And when I talk of access, it's access in terms of geography, it's access in terms of quality, it's access in terms of affordability, and access in terms of user experience for any system or service that we interact with. Now, our union's vision for Africa is a continent that is empowered and able to participate actively in the global information society. We therefore reckon that it is crucial that African youth have access to global opportunities and can participate in global conversations such as this. I strongly believe that African youth have much more to teach, as well as quite a lot to learn from the youth from other regions. And then, Africa has been a leader in many areas, largely fintech being the most well-known example, the mobile financial services. But indeed, there are quite a lot of other areas that our youth are involved in, be it ed tech, be it climate technology, agri-tech, transportation, and more so education. And we believe that our youth are up to the task in developing innovative technologies and business models that can help make the world a better place. I encourage those at this forum to engage with the African youth as much as possible and to share ideas and learn from each other. Africa is a youthful continent. In fact, 60% of our population is youthful. And you know what? By 2030, the African youth will constitute 42% of the global youth. The African youth will be 42%. I'm trying to get to terms with this. The African youth will be 42% of the global youth. Ignore them, and you are ignoring 42% of the global youth. And we see this in some of our dynamics. I mean, Spain is close to Africa, one of the southernmost countries in Europe. And you see attempts at crossings over the Mediterranean. Women and youth looking for opportunities. And I believe that if we can get these opportunities to where they are, then we can avoid such incidents. Our youth are very optimistic, creative, determined, which really are important attributes for any innovation. But they are saddled with a number of challenges, especially so as to turn their creative minds into creative solutions. These challenges include lack of technical knowledge, few networks, limited access to markets, lack of prior experience, and lack of funds to invest. And so our belief, and indeed we've worked with Huawei in this regard, that a supportive ecosystem can help the youth overcome these challenges. But those are some of the global challenges that you experience. In Africa, the challenges are greater than that. And there are no strong networks of angel investors. There are not a lot of research grants that are available through various foundations or grants for our youth. We have weak training capacities in many of our institutions, and lack of limited commercialization support from our various training institutions. And so it will take all of us working together to create an ecosystem that ensures that anybody, any youth with a creative mind can get an opportunity anywhere, whether in a rural area or an urban setting, to exercise their creative minds and develop the sort of talents that they have. The other challenge that I see in Africa, and I want to speak this from my heart, is an ecosystems problem The other one was sort of a problem that you can say is with our youth. It's with our families, it's lack of funds, lack of technical skills. But I see another challenge, especially in the continent where I come, which is created by ecosystems players themselves. The ecosystems players themselves are now creating a bottleneck for innovation. And why do I say this? We have seen so much of silo working, so much of people working in silos. And all of this is about credit taking or attracting funding from whichever source. And I don't know how we can build an alliance, and I'm happy that UNESCO and Huawei are already talking of such an alliance, so that we don't work in silos. There's so much of duplication of resources. There's so much of wastage of resources. And nowhere is this more apparent to me than Africa. Everybody comes with an alliance or with a foundation or with this program, with that program. And I don't know at what time we will be sane enough to say enough is enough. Let's work together so that we have better, bigger, and more impactful experiences for our youth. I think the moment we get sane enough to do that, the moment we will impact our youth in a positive sense. We are committed as a union to working with everybody in the ecosystem to ensure that the youth in Africa get to the right place, and not just in Africa, but anywhere in the world, because when you invest in the youth, whether in Honduras, whether in Qatar, whether in China or in Haiti, you are investing in your future. That's my belief. When you invest in the youth anywhere, you are investing in a solution that will solve a problem that we have. And so for me, whether in Africa or anywhere in the world, investing in the youth is investing in my future. And so we are calling upon each and every person in the ecosystem, and I hope we can be open to part of this as a debate here, that how can we collaborate more? How can we collaborate more? I can tell you for the last, since COVID, I've had nearly 15 initiatives about youth innovation and talent search in Africa. 15. And each and every person is coming up. I'm funded by so-and-so and supported by so-and-so. And this is not just an African problem. It's European, it's in APT, it's in CITEL. And so we need to find a way. We've got to find a way, whether it's through the UN, the much maligned UN, they are my employers, so through governments or through whoever, or through the private sector, Huawei, for example. We've got to find a way in which we work together to ensure that we have bigger and better impact. I really want to end it here by saying that we must ensure that we upskill our youths, we train our youths. Indeed, most of the 42% of the youth that I've talked about in Africa interact with the gadgets as consumers and not as producers. So I'm absorbing, TikTok. I'm absorbing Google, but I'm not being creative. And so we need to ensure that the ecosystem encourages, or whatever comes through, whatever video apps that we install, also contribute to creativity, so that it's not just absorbing videos from wherever, but also ensuring that we encourage the youth to have a creative mind to also develop their own content rather than as consumers of content from elsewhere. And these applications should be able to be in our tech so that you encourage creative minds. I want to thank you for listening to me. I've given you, I believe, so much to think about, and to thank you once again, Huawei, for having me here and having these distinguished young people in the house. We will be available to engage with you in whatever forum, maybe at coffee or anywhere on email, so that we can continue with this conversation and ensure that we have opportunities that can engage us for a better world. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you, Mr. John. It's truly impressive to see how the African Telecommunication Union is dedicated to providing universal access to telecommunication and enabling youths to leverage on these assets to drive innovation in order to solve problems of our time. On this note, I would like to invite our next keynote speaker, Senator Jorge Ramirez Marin, who is the president of the Commission of Science and Technology of the Mexico Senate. Please, he's going to be speaking in Spanish, so please, could you all put on your translators?
Translation, devices.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you. Very good morning. Good morning to you all. I would like to especially thank Huawei for this opportunity of conversing with all of you. It is my understanding that talent, by and large young talent, that undoubtedly has fought and gained this privilege of demonstrating their talent and participating in meetings like this many times, following competitions, teamwork, invitations. This is extraordinary, and it deserves our full acknowledgement. However, in the face of such an extraordinary group of people, I cannot resist my feeling of expressing some of our concerns with respect to the digital environment, with respect to ICTs, and with respect to some of the risks that we are already being cautioned of, based on the experience of Mexico, that I believe could be very useful for all of you. And I believe that these things are things that can be corrected, as long as we join our efforts and focus on them. Allow me to be more specific. We are possibly confusing digital capabilities or digital skills with just merely the use of the internet. Or put in a different way, the use of information and communication technologies. And this may well lead us to a different confusion, a confusion that may lead us to a much more acute inequality, to a greater separation, to a greater divide between the various social levels and the various opportunities for people. I am not referring to the fact that you can use a computer or not. It is not just about digital literacy. We must also understand why we need or why we want information and communication technologies, and why do we want a digital realm that can be sustainable from the very essence of it. And let me give you an example of that. It is not the same to say to go through a museum using a digital device or a digital medium than understanding the reasons behind the creation of the pieces of art or the works of art. Probably using a digital app or a digital device, I can get to know the specific details much more than if I were to visit the David or the Piety of Michelangelo. But I would have to know why Michelangelo created these works of art, what they meant and what they represent for all. To have the opportunity of providing my own explanation about those pieces. So I believe that digital skills and digital competencies should go beyond the mere use of the means and technologies or digital technologies altogether. What is the risk of not doing so? Once again, let me give you an example of Mexico. In Mexico, the latest survey on the use of the internet demonstrated that practically 87% of the inhabitants of the country use the internet. But in the face of this reality, another study that we just presented in the Mexican Senate demonstrates the amount of cyber harassment that mainly boys, girls, and teenagers are exposed to through the internet. So, if we do not meet our goal, the so-called digital education, if we do not focus our efforts on digital education instead of favoring a fairer society, a healthier society, or mentally healthier, then we would be giving greater opportunity for harassers and predators that are online. It seems to me that the situation is a clear one. If we focus our efforts and if we make digital talent to share not just digital skills, but also the essence, the raison d'être, the human reason, the progress that we all seek through digital competencies and not just a technological effort, then we will be taking society at large to this world that cannot be described better than the movie Oblivion. Do you recall that movie? A society on top, living thanks to the technology, with infinite health, with infinite food, with never-ending education, and on the bottom of them, underneath them, living out of the waste of that society, the rubbish formed by the vast majority of the rest of humankind. We are interested in promoting digital talent. This should be a priority of governments. In Mexico, we are focusing on two key issues today: cybersecurity, in order to protect especially youngsters and children from harassment on the internet, because the number of children suffering abuse in Mexico reaches 4 million children and teenagers a year. And a good proportion of that is almost 60% of children and teenagers in the country using the internet, said that they had fallen victim to some form of abuse. I'm saying 60%. This is why this is priority number one: the safety of especially children and teenagers, girls and teenagers as well. And the next important priority, the second important priority in the training of digital talent, is health or healthcare. We are especially interested in the opportunity of ensuring health is given to as many people as possible through ICTs, through a digital environment, to ensure that we have more and more digital talent creating new ways of taking health to the most isolated or deprived areas of the country. And of course, the last topic is education. I didn't mention education first, because I believe this is part of any priority. And it's impressive to see what our deficit is in this particular area. Let me give you an example. There's a group called There's a small group called the Zarigüeyas. They live in Mérida and Yucatan. It's a group of society where there is real estate development close nearby, where new buildings, new modern residential areas and industrial areas are being created. And nearby, these Zarigüeyas gather plastic waste to sustain a group of 54 children that every day share 8 computers. So with the money that this group, the Zarigüeyas, earn by selling plastic, they can pay the teachers who will come to teach 50 students, sharing only 8 computers, 8 laptops. So it's impressive to see how this group understands really well that the best possible opportunity for these children in the future will be to count on digital skills. It is also impressive to see how they alone can do this effort when many more should be embarking on initiatives like this with these groups doing similar efforts. That is why meetings like these are very important. That is why this opportunity is so important, because allow me to say that this old boomer here in front of you should tell you an anecdote. When you reach 60, you start to think, what have you seen in life? What has happened in your life? And I have seen an extraordinary transformation of the landline. You remember picking up the phone and dialing the numbers, to the impressive development of technology, of cell phone technology that we all celebrate, that allow us to communicate, that took us from out of the pandemic, but possibly one that made us more isolated and selfish. And this is the risk. You start thinking that the paradigm of your generation was no better than the one of this generation. It was just more collective. It was addressed to more people. Justice, resolving the food issue, resolving the freedom or the democracy issue. Almost none of that has been completely resolved. But maybe these generations, the technological savvy generations, will need a little bit of this communal or community approach to ensure that our goals are not selfish, but rather that they continue to seek and find the solution to these unresolved problems together. It is a great opportunity, and Huawei is a leading company that is best doing this role. We must acknowledge that, and it's great to celebrate this agreement having been signed with UNESCO. From the Mexican Senate, us will be promoting and backing initiatives like these, and we will continue to insist in not reaching this world of oblivion, but the other way around. We would like to ensure that ICTs, the digital skills, digital competencies, will place us all on a more equal footing in the same world. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Senator Jorge. Our final speaker, Dr. Piti, Executive Director of the ASEAN Foundation. Please welcome him on stage.
Excellency, Ms. Vicky Zhang Yuan, Vice President of Corporate Communications, Huawei, Mr. David Achorina, Directors of the UNESCO Institute for Lifelong Learning, Mr. John Omo, Secretary General of African Telecommunication Union, or the ATU, distinguished guests, our youth on Seats for the Futures, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Sawadee krab. Hola. Hola. See, I get some response. Hola. Hola. Thank you. It is my great pleasure to be invited to deliver an opening speech at the Huawei Digital Talent Summit, where we gather today to discover how we can foster innovative digital talents in the regions, tackle challenges, and determine the next course forward in resolving digital gaps for a more vibrant digital world. In the current global race towards digital economy transitions, ASEAN, the multidimensional regional corporations among 10 Southeast Asian nations, leads the way as the fastest growing internet market in the world. Since the COVID-19 pandemics, 60 million new digital consumers emerged in the regions. ASEAN digital revenue increased from $117 billion in the year 2020 to 174 billion US dollars in 2021, or increased by 48.72%, and is expected to hit 363 billion US dollars, or 3 times higher by the year 2025. And as digital natives, our millennials, our Z generations play a huge role as important drivers to accelerating ASEAN digital transformations. As of 2021, ASEAN already had 35 unicorns, and numbers keep rising. The startup in Southeast Asia, pioneered by young peoples, have generated 8.2 billion US dollars in the year 2020s. It is clear that ASEAN youth is at the forefront in carrying out the future's economies for a more developed regions. They are also highly aware of potential disruption and challenges that the digital transformation may bring to their professional endeavors. A survey by the World Economic Forum found that 9.2% of youth in Southeast Asia believe their current skills are already obsoleted, are already outdated. And a further 52.5% believe they must upgrade their skill constantly. This showcases ASEAN youth growth mindsets and their spirits to embrace lifelong upskilling and reskilling. There's no doubt that ASEAN youth are our torch bearers who will shape the region's destinies. They have also played indispensable roles in the face of COVID-19 pandemics. In the rapid changing world, ASEAN youth have excelled in embracing the new normal and turned crisis into opportunities. Amid the unprecedented digital transformation in Southeast Asia, they have emerged from the pandemic more resilient, more adaptive, and more creative. In response as a forward-looking regions, ASEAN or Southeast Asia is committed to investing in youth human capital as they are important actors in realizing the ASEAN Community Vision 2025, a community that is politically cohesive, economically integrated, and social responsible, with a greater emphasis on the peoples of ASEAN and their well-being. ASEAN also prioritized the need for youth development programs to enable their engagement in the ever-changing world. The ASEAN Work Plan on Youth 2021 to 2025 guided the ASEAN youth sectors, implementing youth policies and programs that aims towards a future-ready ASEAN by foster 21st century skills and digital skills, and the institutionalized of youth engagement mechanism, including in the regional policy discourse. ASEAN is determined to mold our youth into a robust generation by cultivating a technological savvies and future-ready cohorts through a plethora of activities in 5 priorities areas. First, education, of course. Second, health and well-being. The third one is the employment and opportunities. The fourth one, participations and engagements. And last but not least, the fifth, to build the ASEAN awareness, ASEAN values, and ASEAN identities. This is an example of what ASEAN has done throughout its journeys in realizing the sustainable talent development ecosystems. As an organ of ASEAN, mandated to enrich the potentials of ASEAN people, the ASEAN Foundations, my organization, is proud to take part in building a cohesive and prosperous ASEAN communities. We empower youth to grow their future-ready skills and enable spaces for meaningful participations for young peoples. Since the year 2017, the ASEAN Foundation has been developing and implementing digital initiatives such as the ASEAN Data Science Explorers, ASEAN Digital Innovation Programs, ASEAN Online Safety Academies, ASEAN Cybersecurity Skilling Programs, ASEAN Digital Literacy Program, and ASEAN Data Empowerments. These programs strive to provide a platform for young people in the regions to strengthen their digital skills. With the objective of bridging connections and embracing digital transformation for shared prosperities. These regional programs remain relevant in cushioning our youth all over ASEAN against the backdrop of the COVID-19 post-pandemics. Nevertheless, fostering digital skill among the youth is a cross-cutting issue that require effective problem solving rooted in multi-stakeholder collaborations. The ASEAN Seed for the Futures, in partnership with Huawei, is a perfect example of a public-private partnerships that result in tangible outcome. Launches in last year, 2022, as Ms. Vicky already mentioned from the video presentations, the program already equipped over 120 students from 10 ASEAN countries: Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, Singapore, the Philippines, Brunei Darussalam, Cambodia, Laos PDR, Myanmar, and Vietnam, plus Bangladesh, Bhutan, Japan, Nepal, and the Republic of Korea, as well as Sri Lanka, with competitive digital skill, with cross-cultural exchange, with fellow youth change makers. It is our goal, ASEAN Foundations and Huawei, that this program not only steer youth into becoming better and more efficient problem solvers, but also equip them to harness the value learning that come from it. We believe the program has unleashed we've unleashed them on the journeys of self-discoveries and will propel them to greater heights. Ladies and gentlemen, especially our youth, luck doesn't happen by chance, but a mathematical equations arising from self-improvement practice plus the opportunity that come in. So good luck, good fortune, did happens. ASEAN Foundations try very hard to give both of these components. We work hard to create talents in 10 Southeast Asian nations, and we also looking forward to get opportunities from our supporters. Indeed, young people are calling on us to offer their creativities and innovations. I hope that youth-centric programs such as ASEAN Seed for the Futures, partner with Huawei, serve as an inspiration to bring forth more impactful public-private partnership in the futures. To conclude my remarks, please allow me to show my appreciations to Huawei for successful organization of this summit. I wish you all productive and engaging discussions throughout this summit. I believe our participations at this significant avenue will ignite our shared commitment to building a connected and inclusive digital world. Thank you for your kind attention. ขอบพระคุณครับ Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Piti, for that insightful speech. I'm sure we have gotten a lot of insights on the role young people are playing towards shaping the future of ASEAN.
Now, for all that we've been waiting for, let me introduce to you an exciting project and the team that made that happen. For the past 2 years, we have been running the Tech for Good competition as part of the Seeds for the Future program, and seeds from all over the world will come together towards one common goal of delivering technology solutions to address social issues. So today, we are pleased to welcome the winners of last year's Tech for Good competition, Heather Murphy, to introduce the project. Heather, please.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Hola. A little bit better, we're getting there. Okay, it's been a bit of a slow morning. I think we're all kind of feeling a bit stretched. Stand up, shake our legs, move it out. All the way to the top. Go on, stretch. Long flights yesterday. You probably spent 15 hours of plane, facing the wall. Stretch it out, don't hit your partner. Oh, getting wide. Shake it all out and sit back down. Okay, that's a bit better. Now, we can kind of have a bit of life in the room again. So, thank you for the introduction. My name is Heather. I'll be speaking today on behalf of Team Shielta from Ireland. And yes, I suppose I'll be presenting our global winning project for the Tech for Good competition in the year 2022, so just last year. I suppose first, generally when we do these presentations, we say, meet the team, and then we move really quickly to the next slide for fear that somebody will overanalyze our mugshots, and also the time is ticking and we have a project to present. But in this case, it's a little bit more relaxed, so we can kind of actually go through the team. Just 4 months ago, these 9 people here, we were complete strangers. We didn't know each other. And even though Ireland has a very small population, we had actually never met each other before. And much to Mr. Omo's delight, we have 50% African representation. So Serena here is from Uganda. Josiah is from Zimbabwe. Carlos is born in Nigeria, raised in South Africa. And David, even though he speaks with a thick Irish accent, is also Nigerian. So that leaves the Irish half of the team. So as an Irish team, we're actually only half Irish. Kate, even though she was born in Australia, she is actually Irish. Emma, even though her surname, for those of you that can see it here, is very unique looking and very exotic looking, it's actually Scottish and she's never even set foot in the country. Then we have Jake. He's the baby of our team. He's only in first year of university. And even though he has a surname Farrell, which is in the top 50 most common names in Ireland, he doesn't quite beat myself and Paula with a surname like Murphy, which is the most common name in Ireland. And no, for the record, we're not related, but we have been asked on multiple occasions. So there you have it. There's the team. And I suppose as I was saying, about 4 months ago, we were 9 complete strangers. So we're going to tell you a little bit about our journey in terms of how we've come here in a very short space of time. So back in October of 2022, we took part in the Seeds for the Future programme in Ireland. It's been mentioned a lot today and throughout the course of the week. I'm sure it'll come up again, but it's an 8-day intensive programme. Whereby we're learning skills in AI, 5G, cloud computing, learning entrepreneurship and innovation skills, and also about Chinese culture. So from this, we participated during the week. We were split into random groups. Us 9 lovely people were put together. And we took part in the Tech for Good project, developed a project targeting a solution or a product to aim at the Sustainable Development Goals that we've heard about. So we actually did quite well. We were the top group project in the Irish programme, and we were delighted. We could have just left it there, and we were happy out. We were so happy with our progress and all the work we'd put in during the week. Then about few weeks later, we got word that we'd actually finished in the top 6 projects across all of Europe. So we packed our bags, and in the middle of December, we headed for very sunny Athens, which was a really nice treat for us Irish. And we attended the Huawei Talent Summit. So this is where we attended workshops and developed our business plan, developed our project in order to compete, I suppose, against the 5 other top European teams. So we battled it out, we pitched, and unfortunately we didn't come out on top, but we'd had a great week, we had great workshops, we met some great people, and it was wonderful. Thank you for the pity clap. It's very, very thoughtful. So we weren't the ultimate winners, but we kind of decided, you know what, we've put a lot of work into this project. We'll make a few tweaks here and there, and sure, why don't we give the global competition a go? I mean, we have most of the work done, and we'll just try keep going. So we threw an application together. We put the application in, and we kind of said, you know, what have we got to lose? Well, it turns out we had quite a lot to lose. In January of 2023, we were qualified for the last 12 finalists, where we pitched live. And we actually came out as the top project, winning the gold prize. And we were shocked as you were here. Thank you. And it really is testament to the amount of work that the entire group has put in. It's been a unique journey for the past 4 months, but it has been super interesting. And attending events like these and getting support along the way as well has been really interesting. So I suppose that's what brings us here today. And I think if you asked any of us 4 months ago, do we think that we'd be sitting here like us 9 strangers who made the application for that Seeds for the Future programme? Absolutely not. We wouldn't. We'd have said no way. That's a joke. But here we are today. So I suppose that's us. That's our journey. And now the actual project. We've introduced you to us and our journey, but let us introduce you to our project. And in order to do this, let us introduce you to Danielle. So Danielle is a 25-year-old young worker who would love to be able to commute to work or, say, take the train home after a few drinks with some friends. So how does she do this? Well, she calls her local rail provider or local train station, and she requests that a staff worker can lay one of these manual ramps. Now, and if this all goes to plan, she'll arrive at the train station at her already thought out time. She'll arrive at the train station, there'll be a staff worker there, and he'll be able, or she will be able to lay the ramp. She gets on the train, zero independence and zero spontaneity. Now getting off the train, that's a whole other battle. So she has no idea if there's actually going to be a staff worker there. And if there isn't, missing her stop or being stuck on the train is a real fear for someone like Danielle. The thing is, this is a reality for someone like Danielle. It's not just a story. And Danielle is not alone. With 14.5 million wheelchair users worldwide, this is not a problem localised just to Ireland. The UK, France, the Netherlands, Germany, the US, they have their fair share of these horror stories, and we're here to provide a solution. So our mission is to allow wheelchair users to independently board trains. How do we do it? Well, the roll-on automated ramp is integrated with computer vision and IR sensors for additional accuracy. It's powered by AI and communicates over 5G high-speed networks. It's also integrated with LED lighting and noise emissions for surrounding awareness, and also equipped with obstacle avoidance. So, how does it actually work? Well, from the user perspective, they can log on with their pre-approved account on our app, or using an NFC card for wider inclusivity, and they can request the app for a certain time for the train that they'd like. Once requested, the automated roll-on ramp will use computer vision to align itself with the doors you can see here, and once it arrives at its fixed position from the train platform, it extends into its first extension position within the train door. So this allows maximum security, and then it retracts so that it's flush with the train, allowing the wheelchair user to safely board. Once they're on board, they can confirm they've boarded, and they can also select their departure destination so that the ramp will be ready for them upon arrival, all whilst the roll-on ramp retracts into its compact form and returns to its safe housing unit, potentially for charging. So, how does it really work? Well, under the hood, our cloud-based roll-on platform communicates over 5G ultra-reliable low-latency networks. Account requests are authenticated via our secure database in compliance with GDPR. And once an account request is authenticated, the roll-on process will begin, and the driver will be alerted to let them know that a wheelchair user or any particular user is going to be rolling on board. Our platform also communicates with local rail service providers in order to be able to estimate the accurate time of arrival of an incoming train, so that the ramp is prepped for their disembarkment. So, how would this actually work? Well, we would work on a B2B business model through both private and public investment of 500,000, with an each unit installation cost of €2,000 as a once-off. An annual subscription fee then of just over €1,000 per year per station, including tech maintenance, tech support, all in-house support, with discount packages applied for multiple stations. So after an initial 14-month testing period, developing key partnerships and pilot program initiatives, we would take on a one-year pilot program, and then through venture capital funding and Series A funding, we would take part in a nationwide expansion and further developing to a global expansion. Now, our potential partners aren't just local to our team from Ireland. Well, from Ireland and all of Africa, as we've heard. Ireland and all across Europe. But they are not only just Europe and Ireland, but also all across the world. So thank you very much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed today. I think that something we can really say is that you've heard our journey. You've heard about our team, heard our journey, and what we've come to today. And as I said earlier, look, 4 months ago, us 9 strangers, we would have had absolutely no idea that this would have happened, and we've learned so much along the way. So I suppose for all of us as individuals, no matter what kind of program we're coming from, none of us have any idea what the future holds, really. So thank you very much, and enjoy.
So, awesome. An impressive project by an impressive team. Please meet Heather.
Please remain on.
Sorry.
Please can we invite
So eager.
the team members of Team Ireland on stage? We have a surprise for you all. Just come up on stage.
Give a round of applause.
A round of applause as they come up. May I now invite Ms. Vicky
Miss Vicky?
to make the presentation.
Miss Vicky, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. can you remain on stage for a group photograph? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Lovely to
Congratulations.
meet you.
So congratulations again to the winners of Tech for Good competition last year. And we look forward to more entrepreneurs and exciting projects like yourself.
We will now be moving on to the next section of this summit. We'll be having a seat talk where we'll be getting to know if we are learning more or less in this digital era. On this note, I would like to invite the moderator for this session. I would like to invite Ms. Nicole Colas on stage, who will be taking over as the moderator. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Antonia Reifung. It's an honor to share the stage with you. It's a pleasure to meet all the rest of the students of the SEEDS program. Thank you to all the speakers who have spoken before. Congratulations to the winners of the competition. And thank you, Huawei, for this opportunity to gather with such bright and innovative people. So today's panel discussion, it's the hottest topic right now, and perhaps for the rest of our lives. It is, are we learning more or less in this digital era? Well, as in the concept of robots in the 1920s, it was just introduced, the concept. And in the 60s, it was when the actual prototype was provided. And we've seen throughout the decades how robots have bit by bit, bot by bot, been parts of our lives, our daily lives. But not as much as now with ChatGPT. The idea is to make our lives better, but it raises some questions, doesn't it, right? Our cherished family recipes, are they going to be passed on to our grandchildren by robots, for example? Are libraries indeed becoming obsolete? And must we all learn coding and algorithms to stay ahead of such technology? So, we are going to continue this discussion, binge thinking, per se, with 4 exceptional people. So please welcome to the stage co-founder of this Discovery Institute. Ladies and gentlemen, a big round of applause for Mr. George Gilder. Hi, George. Please find your seat wherever you want to sit. You decide, you're the man. Next, we have Chief Exec Officer and co-founder of Neuroverse Incorporated, Dr. Ricardo Gil da Costa, PhD. Hello, Ricardo. Thank you for joining. Yeah, find your seat there. Next, we have SEEDS student from Morocco. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for Ayoub Gamas. I hope I said your last name correctly. Did I? Did I say your name correctly? It's okay. Ayoub? Ayoub?
Gamas.
Gamas. Gamas.
Exactly.
Oh.
That's a thing.
All right. Everybody say it together. Next, we have a SEED student from Germany. We have Louis Robman. He laughed. Oh, is it Louis? Luis. I mean, is it S silent? Okay.
Robman.
And Robman?
Sorry?
Robman is the last name.
Rossman.
Rossman.
Yeah.
Well, we've started on a good note. So thank you to Heather for getting everyone to get up and going. I was going to get you to stand up and do some extra, but no need to do that. But I just want to do a quick icebreaker. Without even thinking, I'm going to give you 2 words to choose from, and you're going to raise your hand on it, okay? 2 words. Either you choose Transformers or Terminator. Don't think about it. Those who choose Transformers, raise your hand. Okay, those who choose Terminator, raise your hand. Okay. There's some people didn't choose anything at all. Very interesting. We shall talk about that. Okay, so we're going to start with George. Would you like to be addressed as Mr. Gilder or George?
George is fine.
Great.
Is this on?
That's on.
Okay.
So George, wow. You have a fascinating life experience. You have an abundance of knowledge. You're an investor, you're an author, economist. You are familiar with Huawei as well.
Yep, Huawei was a pioneer of all the technologies of telecom. And I came to admire it deeply. And I particularly today respect its very early adoption of graphene. You know, this is a single layer of carbon atoms that is 200 times more conductive than copper, many times stronger than steel, yet more flexible than rubber, perfectly conductive, even nearly superconductive. It functions in the light domain, so it actually affords the possibility of light speed, wireless communications. It's a revolution, and Huawei adopted it before any major telecom company. And well, Bell Labs did some work, but Huawei has really led, and that's why it's so unpopular in some circles. It really pioneered, and I'm quite embarrassed to represent the United States and its paranoia about Huawei. I think Huawei is a great pioneer in the world economy and it's a global multi-national force for good in the world. So I'm happy to be here.
Fantastic. If only we had 3 more hours to talk about that subject itself, but we do not, unfortunately. But I want to stay with you, George. You, in your book in 1990, Life After Television, you hinted at microchip telecomputers connecting via
the teleputer.
Cables. Yes. But with ChatGPT, it's the most eye-catching, tech product right now. It's changing our lives. With the emergence of such technologies, especially referring to education, do you foresee certain subjects like literature and foreign languages becoming less important?
No. ChatGPT is just another phase in the evolution of the computer industry. The idea that it's something radically different, that it usurps human minds, is just preposterous in my view. Mm-hmm. It's you go back to Gödel. Kurt Gödel proved that all logical systems are necessarily dependent on propositions outside the system that can't be proven within the system. It's human minds that generate all these capabilities, and human minds have to move to the forefront. But human minds are enhanced by technology, and this is another step in the enhancement of human minds. And it will not destroy jobs. It will enrich jobs and make people more productive and thus more employable. So I think that ChatGPT, it's a great step forward. I mean, it's retrospective. It can't really be original. It doesn't do high entropy creativity, but it is valuable and supplement to human minds, and I think the world will benefit from it.
Thank you, George. I love it. It's such a new concept that you can put any 3 letters you want to after chat, and you understand more or less what we're talking about, because I do the same thing. GPT, TPT. Anyway, Luis, tell us a little bit about yourself and what your thoughts on what George just mentioned about.
Well, yeah, it's a big pleasure to be here. My name is Luis. I come from Germany, from Munich. I'm 22 years old. I was part of the Digital Seeds program last year. And yeah, I study business informatics at the University of Applied Sciences in Munich. And yeah, beside my studies, I work currently since half a year in a small company called Digatus. We made it to our task that we digitalize processes in nursing homes, especially in nursing homes, because I think there's a really big problem actually in Germany. For example, they have no VLAN in nursing homes, but we do consultant there, and yeah, we have some products like cameras who recognize if one guy falls on the ground, and then the nursing will call, and yeah, I think there's a big problem. And yeah, about ChatGPT, it's just getting started, artificial intelligence. I think, yeah, or for me personally, I would like to get more into this topic, because I think that's the future. A funny story beside, in my study in the semester, I had in one subject, we have to represent the client-server communication via Python, the programming language Python, and I never heard something about Python, and I never did something with Python. So yeah, I had a big problem. So I just yeah, I think about buying a book, a random book, but suddenly there was ChatGPT, and the code which was given by the professor to us, I just can copy the code in ChatGPT, and ChatGPT just explained me the code, so I can get a deeper and deeper understanding in the project, and yeah, then I could manipulate the code and yeah, finish it well in the end.
So far, it's been a good experience for you.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We're concentrating on the future. We have Dr. Ricardo. As a matter of fact, who knows the blockbuster TV show Big Bang Theory? You've seen that, right? Dr. Ricardo, was a neuroscience advisor on that show. Wow. How was that experience for you? Was that through this science and entertainment exchange program that you are a part of?
Yeah, so I'm an advisor for the United States National Academies of Science, and they have a program called the Science and Entertainment Exchange, as you said, Nicole. And basically what it does is trying to connect entertainment professionals, showrunners, directors, writers, producers, live action shows, film features, etc., with expert scientists, engineering, mathematicians, neurobiologists in my case, chemists, whatever. So basically, if you need one, it's sort of almost like a one-hit-100 called a scientist. For entertainment, you connect to the National Academy of Sciences. They'll go to a triage process with you, and they'll connect you to one of the National Academy's advisors to help you developing anything that can come from, you know, a single call on a question they may have, to working on a script, to be on set, like with Big Bang, and work together on that.
Wow, what a way to extend knowledge even further.
It is. It's fantastic. I mean, like it's great to give the talks and have on symposiums and sessions, but realistically, when we try to put on a new idea or actually rectify some older ideas that might not be correct, we can be giving, you know, talks, and, you know, we've all been there for 100 talks for the next 100 years, and you're going to reach a certain number of people. But you have a Big Bang episode or Fringe or one of the Marvel Avengers things, and suddenly, you know, boom, in one session you get, you know, 30 million people. So it's a great way to be part of the story and of promoting good science instead of, you know, keep perpetuating, you know, bad facts.
Mm-hmm. What do you foresee in 20 years as far as education goes? What do you feel like is going to be the future of including ChatGPT?
Including ChatGPT. It's a loaded question. I agree 100% with what George said, by the way. It's a tool, right? At the end of the day, it's a tool. And, you know, I was talking to Louis a little bit earlier, and he's doing some great work. But, you know, when you say ChatGPT is the future, it's not. You guys are the future. ChatGPT is whatever you're going to do with it, right? It's just one more tool. The other important thing is, you know, on our field, we refer to something as augmented cognition, which George was alluding to. And again, you talk a lot about AI and this competition between, you know, the biological brain and the AI brain. There's no competition. It's just different things and different matters. And the whole point is we're humans. We are biological. So the good thing is what can we do to augment our abilities, as George was saying? So this notion of augmented cognition, where we can use this AI, you know, machine learning systems, AI systems, any advancement technology, you know, faster networks, to really connect to it. So one of the important things that I see is going to be a big change on user interfaces, for sure, right? We're seeing it already. Went from writing things to have tablets to have screens. And more the work that we do at Neuroverse is creating human brain interfaces to interact with all sort of different things. So I think there's going to be some level of hacking, if you will, into the brain to connect, and being able to end it up in a cognitive processing system when you can take advantage of the things that the brain does best and the things that, you know, computation does best, is, you know, going through massive loads of data that we don't have a memory load for. And then having human experience, human sensitivity help modulating that. So I think that's going to be reflected for sure in education. We're briefly talking yesterday about also the emotional aspect of education, right? And you know, when I was listening to John's talk earlier, I think there's a lot of that. You have to go back on education to do something. I'm sure that if I ask any of you guys what your favorite topics, in most cases you're going to remember the teacher. And the reason for that is that it imprinted something on you. It's well been there as students, right? It's a big difference between some person, you know, regurgitating something out of a book, or someone who's really doing that exciting research and brings that excitement to you as you're learning, as you put it together. ChatGPT will not do that, I'll guarantee you. So we'll have to bring those two things together. And I think that you will see more of these tools incorporated on daily life. I think we're going to see changes on user brain interfaces. And again, companies like Huawei augmenting the broadband, you know, different companies trying to get different ways for people to interact with the technology, I think is going to be at the heart of it. But we need to keep this aspect. One thing that I do think that could be very positive, and again, this was brought up today by different speakers, is extending the reach, right? Is both in education and in health. Can we actually use technology to reach parts of the world that socioeconomically have not been able to benefit from the same things that in the United States and in Europe we have access to? And I think that that's a critical matter. But we really need to, you know, combine human wisdom with new technologies to make it work, I think.
I had a conversation with every day about it, basically with my 14-year-old son, and he said, yeah, maybe the future is my teacher will be ChatGPT. Well, I think, like you just said, there's no substituting human beings and connecting in that moment with emotion, and that's a way to remember and obtaining information rather than just reading.
Exactly. Look, in your brain, when you think about how to create memories, right, and how to create learning, and it comes from those memories. My background is I'm a cognitive neurophysiologist, okay? So I worked for the National Institutes of Health in the United States for many years, then to the Salk Institute, and I was doing research on conceptual representation and evolution of the brain. So how we create concepts, how we develop language. And then on the past several years, we co-founded a company called Neuroverse Inc. As Nicole said, we work with brain interfaces and neurotechnologies. But here's the important thing. One thing that we know about learning, about creating these memories, is not something that go in one specific place, right? It's distributed in the brain. But a very important catalyzer is the emotional valence associated with that memory. So the brain tends to imprint and remember better anything that has a high valence of emotion, good or bad, right? If it's something more or less, you know, not that interesting for you emotionally, you're not going to memorize it. So that component needs to be part of the process for sure.
What do you think about that? What would you be happy to have had robots as teachers? I mean,
yeah, that's a good question. Let me just introduce myself.
Yes, please do. Please say where you're.
My name is Ayub Rames. She told this in a partially right manner. So I come from Morocco, and as a lot of you, Morocco is an African continent. Some of you think that Morocco is in Middle East, so it's kind of between both. We consider ourselves in the MENA region, so it's coming from a Middle Eastern background, North African background, but at the same time it's a country that is well-rooted in its African roots. I study engineering and management, and pretty much on another field, I very much like policy and politics. So my aspiring, career would be in policy making related to, having technologies emerging, and this is what I do often. So I'm part of different student government association in my university, in which I represent schools of science and engineering, and I try to help out, at least in my community, in ways in which we can enrich from our school curricula, and pretty much ChatGPT recently was a subject that was actually brought up, and universities are very afraid from ChatGPT, especially in the plagiarism side. I do get that, and let me tell you this. Just before coming to the panel discussion, and when I was proposed the panel discussion, I thought about it. I went to ChatGPT and I asked the question, what do you say while having a panel discussion on digital learning? And I tried to bring up every single idea that is related to this panel discussion, but there wasn't some, and like Louis have mentioned, it's a question of interaction, it's a question of whether you like it or not, and especially it's a question of perspective. Learning, in the end, it's a human sort of like experience. It's a social experience. Whether we have ChatGPT, which is actually a tool, it is mandatory that I mean. We need to learn from our mistakes. I mean, we're humans in the end, so we do make mistakes. We do need that incentive. We do need that creativity aspect. We do need the challenge. And you asked the question, what is like to be in having like a robotic teacher? I wouldn't like to be in a class where I know for a fact that the robot can make mistakes. So I'm a person that do like challenge, and I do believe that I have challenged my professors. I mean, from while being at a young age, I was mistaken and I did a lot of mistakes, but it's part of the process. And this is what I like about the human interaction. It's part of the process to make mistakes, and it's part of the process to know that sometimes and especially when the professor is wrong, you do feel that kind of proud moment. And this is not something that you will find with ChatGPT. And actually, I know that digital tools are something that is well improving in an incredible rate. I know for a fact that a lot of countries do not have, the tools and the means for it. While we're talking about 5G and 6G, as I told many of you, different countries in my community, in Morocco, in Africa, in the Middle East, do not have even access to 2G. So it's kind of a question of perspective. We're talking about high-speed internet. They do not even have the decency of equipment, the decency of having, some sort of stable cable internet. So it is indeed something to look upon to, something to reconsider. But I know for a fact that the digital tools and the improvement of the digital tools is actually made in a global sense and a global size. I think that right now the digital resource should take into consideration, the different component of each single community, single region. For example, I do believe that my region actually have some needs that needs to be, to have some digital resources that are appropriate in that region and considered with it. Pretty much, I know that after all, digital learning is something that we cannot break through. It's something that is coming with us, whether we like it or not. It's a rabbit hole. But if we do embrace it, with enough, human interaction and with some curiosity, with innovation and empathy, it's something that could lead us away.
Thank you. That's actually something that we were listening earlier to John Omo commenting on the waste of resources within Africa and just getting everyone to work together rather than competitive. It's easier, obviously, said than done because it's such a big country, but a continent, and but perhaps you guys can talk about that, and maybe it's my ideas
of course.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
So we are running out of time, unfortunately, but I wanted to put out a couple of hypothetical questions for all of our panelists here. Imagine you go back to, well, not so much high school because you're still maybe trying to figure some things out, but college. Would you go back, knowing what you know now, would you go back and change your major?
I didn't really learn in college. I was a terrible student, and I learned in the world. I learned in the U.S. Marine Corps. I learned in building a company. I learned in studying on my own and teaching physics and calculus to my daughters. I think Ren Zhengfei, the amazing founder of Huawei, said that what the secret of American success and the secret of Huawei's success was to be open to the world. And I just hope we all remember opening to the world is more important than focusing on some consensus of previous science that's summed up in a giant GPT database that originates in the past. Do you know about the connectome? a scientist at MIT has compared connectomes. That's all the connections in the human brain. And he concluded that all the synapses and axons and dendrites, all the amazing webs in the human brain of interconnectivity can be summed up in a rough metric at 2 zettabytes. That's 10 to the 21 connections, and that complexity can be summed up by 2 zettabytes. And the entire global internet, all the connections around the world, can also be summed up at about 2 zettabytes, believe it or not. And so a single human brain has as much connectivity as the global internet. But our brain works on 12 to 14 watts. The internet takes gigawatts, terawatts over time. And this is important to keep in mind as we explore the future. The more free people are to create, the more the power resolves to individual human minds, and the less it's delivered over to machines, the more will be open to the future.
Well said, George. Thank you for that. Dr. Ricardo.
Changing majors, right? Well, I didn't change major, but I did change paths, I guess. So that would be something. So actually, my first major was in biology. I graduated in biology. I have a master's in marine biology. I worked in Africa, in different African countries as a marine biologist for the European Union. And then I was really interested in cognition and how the brain works and the interface between behavioral and the brain. And I changed it. I went to do an MD, PhD, and changed it to neurosciences. So I don't think there's much as, would I change when I go back? Would I change the major? I wouldn't. I think less important than a major is what you're getting out of it. To George's point, what he did before and after college, is you need to be really interested in what you're trying to do, right? I had a very good teacher and mentor back in the day when I was a marine biologist who said, you need to be loving your research, because if you don't, at the best, you'll be mediocre, and probably worse than that. So whatever drives you, whatever is exciting to you, whatever you're willing to put your passion, your time, and your effort onto it is what matters. And don't be afraid to change. One good news is that if you actually learn something in whatever you're doing, a lot of those skills are going to be applied translational to something else you do next. So it's not like you walk away with nothing ever. So it's important to follow the path of things change and adapt to the world around you.
Thank you. Ayub, what do you think?
It's really hard, to consider change in major at this rate. These great two people, have had nearly half of their life over. So,
thank you. That was very reassuring.
But you're still young in heart. But as someone that used to be graduating, and thinking about starting his career, we don't think that way of changing major all over. So. But surely, I just want to add that as part of Z generation, our generation actually, whether we are in a major or not, we do end in the end change paths, and we do change, career at least 5 to 6 times during our lifetime. So it's a question that has been raised up, and personally speaking, I do believe that I have learned much more elsewhere rather than in university. I have learned much more by being active in my community, in civil society, by being active in the part-time jobs that I had in different, in the policy center or in different, departments that are in my city. So it's not a question of change. I don't think that the question of change in major is what matters, but more like, do you still understand and learn everything that you had only in university? And I think that this time requires to be and to have a multidisciplinary approach, that you cannot only learn in university and with the tools such as, I mean, just bringing up ChatGPT, just bringing up other tools that are in the way of being created, university's role is getting, I mean, not lower, but I mean, less significant compared to the other resources that are being, I mean, very abundant, in which learning has not been easier ever, I mean, in our existence as humans. So would I change majors? I don't think so. What do am I aspiring in my career? I mean, in the future, I don't think, I don't know, to be honest. But for sure, am I thinking of switching majors, and am I considering switching majors on the long run? Yes, for sure.
Fantastic life experience. Luis.
Yeah, so I totally agree with you, Ayub. Yeah, I'm just 22 years old, so school is not that long ago. But in young age, I took the technical things in school, and when I got to the high school, I took the economics and entrepreneurship in school. And yeah, so to the question, would I change the major? No, because I think the mix between technical things and economic things, such as entrepreneurship, just for the mindset, and is just the future. And yeah, I wouldn't change the major.
Absolutely, well done, well said. Thank you so much. We have just a little bit of time for perhaps a couple questions. If we can open up to question and answers. If anyone, hand raised right there. There we go.
I'd like to ask Ricardo about the following. We live in a digital world. We're on Zoom. You know, we teach, we work on digital. And you mentioned the emotional side of it. Do we have the skills, or will we have the skills to communicate and understand like we do in person? Is there hope, or can you tell me how I can train to become a better, you know, communicator and convey that emotion that I have in person when I work with my clients or I offer, you know, my insights online?
So you're right. I mean, and now especially, you know, this pandemic and post-pandemic world, right? The whole digital virtual interaction became much more prominent. Zoom calls became, you know, our usual stuff instead of the in-person calls, and it was a challenge, as you pointed out. I mean, a lot of our interactions with other people are non-linguistic interactions, non-verbal ones. It's about picking up cues on facial expressions and all of those things. If you have a call and it's just an auditory call, you're going to lose. You get some intonation from the voice, but you lose most of it. So we want to have that, you know, one-to-one and see the person's face. An interesting thing is that a couple of studies have come out, very recent, small data, but that actually people are getting exhausted with the Zoom calls because the extra effort that they have to say to try to read the other person's emotions. Now you're looking at, you know, small tiles, right, with 10 people, 30 people on it. You either give up or you try to focus on each one of them, which is exhausting, but it's extremely important. So we need to adjust and adapt to some of those things. I don't think that this totally virtual model is a good model. We need at least something hybrid. I think that this distancing has allowed us and freed up also some time from commuting to other things that allow us to be more efficient at parts. But we need to have some sort of an hybrid module. Well, you still have your one-to-one or group interaction, and then you're going to have your distal, you know, aspect to it. Having that said, more and more with this metaverse and any kind of other tools and accessories in addition to AI, like, you know, VR or AR or now this, you know, augmented reality, I think this all is going to help with creating more and more sophisticated ways to interaction, which goes back to the whole aspect of interfaces, right? And if I can have a way to measure, to track, to monitor someone's mental states and different ways to do that, that is not invasive per se, but allows us to, you know, keep that harmony of communication, I think that will be very powerful.
Thank you very much, yes. And another question? Wow. Oh, first hand went up there. Hello.
Thank you so much for this opportunity. This is Ramisha from Bangladesh. So I have been following the discussion, and my question is to everybody actually. So is ChatGPT the future? The discussions, after the discussion, I think we all can agree to the fact that, of course, human beings are irrepressible. So it's not possible to replace a human being. But my question is ChatGPT capable of doing employee cut in organizations? Because as Louis, if I'm pronouncing it right, so as you said that when you had an urgency of completing a task, so when deadlines are approaching, the only thing that comes in human mind is how to get the work done as soon as possible. So at that very moment, I'm not thinking about how creatively it could be done or how much emotions I could attach to it. So isn't this a very big revolutionary thing in that perspective? Suppose in an organization level, from an organizational perspective as well, if I want to get a work done, now I will go to an IT expert. But when ChatGPT comes in, so I probably would just type that, please give me the code of this, how to solve this problem, and it will get it done. So isn't that capable of doing an employee cut, or is this a bit more than I'm thinking, or a bit less?
Well, it really depends on the type of job, right? And what kind of problems we're trying to solve. One of the things that George definitely, touched very well upon is ChatGPT was programmed by somebody, and there's logical was structured by somebody with a certain state of mind that tried to solve that problem probably the best he or she could. But it doesn't mean there's the only solution. So when you transfer that problem-solving skill test, you're basically limiting the amount of options to solve that problem when you take out creativity. When we sometimes think, you mentioned, want to get this done as quickly as possible. Well, sometimes as quickly as possible is actually being creative, thinking outside the box, and finding another way to solve that problem. Instead of just trying to do the same 30 steps just faster, maybe you can actually find a way to do it in 2 steps. And that's going to be faster than your 30 steps and probably more efficient as well. So it really depends on which type of jobs. Now, if you're talking about repetitive manufacturing jobs, then absolutely, automation can serve a fantastic role on it. But it's always going to have to be a combined. And I think the other part is, don't think as much as cutting off jobs, think about how can we all adapt to have a skill set that is still helpful and productive in this new variation of the world. That always happened, right? This is not that new. It's new for us and it's exciting. But if you think of the different things, I mean, for all of us that are on our later side of life and pretty much close to death, right? We remember, those phones. We remember, going to university and having to actually write a physical letter and mail it to a researcher on another country. There was no internet, there was no email, right? And it was not that suddenly the post office disappeared because we got email. So, things adapt and evolve technologically, humanly, socially. So just, you have to figure out the best way to navigate that. And I know it's not easy, but that's the challenge, but that's the reality of things, I think.
Thank you so much for your questions. I think we need to wrap it up. I'm sure you have many more. Thank you for the wise and knowledgeable answers. Perhaps we're going to break now for lunch. Perhaps you can continue the conversation. I wish we had another few hours. This is fascinating. Thank you so much for your contributions to society in this digital era. And thank you so much, everyone, for being part of this. Big round of applause for our panelists, George, Ricardo, Ayub, and Luis. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Please, can we wait a moment? Please, can we have all the speakers, Miss Vicky, and our panelists back on stage for a group photograph? Please, our speakers, our panelists, please, you can come up on stage for
Miss Vicky, Mr. David, Dr. Pity, everyone.
I'll go close on this.
The camera is right in front. The camera is there. Yeah.
Okay.
Everyone say cheese.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
So this comes to the end of this session. I hope you all enjoy the rest of your tour. Meet people, connect, and have fun this MWC 2023. Thank you all.
Hope everyone had a great time, and we are excited for what's ahead, planned by the amazing team of Huawei and Isaac team. And yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.